Kaz, I'm so excited that you said yes to being part of this book, because managing change is a huge thing. And so many of us have avoided some of the biggest changes that happen in life. And we've just stuffed them down, as I was just saying, and then they come back and they sneak up on you, impacting on every area of your life. What was it that drew you towards being somebody that supports so many people through change management? How did you get into it?
Yeah, great question. So I guess I've always been in the world of people. So my background's in HR for 30 odd years, and yeah, it was 2007, and I just got more and more interested in coaching. Like, what is it all about? I've always had an interest in psychology, and studied psychology as part of my degree. And I was like, oh yes, let's find out a bit more about coaching. And then that was it for me. I was kind of hooked. But I sort of took it back with me into my environment as an HR manager, HR director at the time. And for a while, just sort of used those skills in organizations. But I kind of knew there was something else. I just didn't quite know what it looked like.
And so, I mean, you deal with a lot of people that are going through change, and you've already gone through so much training yourself. I would imagine that you really came up against quite a lot of your own change stuff as you were training for this. One of the things I realized as I did my NLP training many years ago was just how much I got to know myself through doing that kind of work. Did you have the same experience?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'd underestimated actually how much stuff was going to surface, where on earth was some of this stuff coming from. But it was amazing. I mean, so cathartic as well. But yeah, quite deep stuff surfacing for sure.
I think that helps us to relate, though, as well, doesn't it, to the people that we're coaching? Because if you
Yeah.
haven't been through it, or if you haven't felt it, then it must be very difficult to have that resonancy, is that the word, with the person that you're supporting. And in HR, you must have dealt with hundreds of people, and there would have been hundreds of different ways that they experience that change. Yet is it the same process you would take them through, or does it vary each time?
I think it's very personal, isn't it? It's very individual how we each respond to change. And I guess that comes from our background, our environment, different influences. You sort of learn, I guess, over the years, don't you, from other people in terms of how can I navigate this? And I don't know about you, but sometimes you talked about that kind of pushing stuff down and not dealing with it. And I think a lot of that comes from our families, doesn't it? And people around us. It's like, oh, I better behave like that. I better not show any emotion. And then gradually, it builds, and you need to deal with it. So
there's an element of feeling safe, isn't there, around that? We're going to be talking to Wendy a little bit later, who works at Impact Catalysts, and one of the things that I really noticed with Wendy was when she first came to work with us. She was like, I've been working in health and social care for 20 years. I've never taken a day off sick. I've been like totally on it. And then when she came to work with us, she never took a sick day, but she started to get quite poorly often. Like every time she booked a holiday, she was just ill through the whole holiday. And when we really got to the bottom of it, it was that she finally felt safe in a way that her protection didn't have to be up all the time. And so her body was now releasing it, even without her knowing. Her body was just releasing all these years of stress. And, it's just one of those things. Like, she had to just get on with the job. She wasn't safe in her environment. How much of that do you find with the people that you work with, whether they're working in an organization or they come to you privately for coaching? How often is it that they've like bottled it up or stored it up because they haven't felt safe to share that with someone, and then all of a sudden you're this safe space that you're hearing them. That might be the first time that someone has ever experienced that when you're talking to them. Does that happen?
Yeah, I think that's a great description. As you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, some people live their lives like in a straitjacket, don't they? Because of fear of, I don't know, fear of being seen, being themselves, showing emotion. I come back to that again. And yeah, that whole bit about being heard is really interesting because, you know, when are we really, really listened to without being interrupted? Not that often. And sometimes, as you say, it's the first time, isn't it? I mean, you know, some of the, I tutor on a course for coaching as well. And, you know, we start at the bottom in terms of listening, really deep listening. And people are like, oh my goodness, I thought I was quite a good listener, but maybe I'm not, because I do interrupt people and try and finish their sentences. So yeah, when people come to coaching, they're like, what is coaching exactly? And, you know, so we have to sort of go through what it is and what it isn't. And then when they realize all the possibilities, you know, maybe they've been living someone else's life, which sounds crazy, doesn't it? But
not really. I know that I did. And I think, you know, it takes a certain kind of situation, I suppose, sometimes to confront something like that. You know, I only realized that I was doing that many years after much personal development, after probably 12 to 15 years of personal development, realizing that, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard because I'm still trying to prove my dad wrong. You know,
yeah,
and I hear that so much. I hear it so much. Kaz, for those people that are watching or listening to this right now, what is the process of change? Because I mean, we have big changes. We have, like, you know, catastrophic type changes. We have grief changes. You talked about the top 4 changes previously. Could you run us through those? Because that every single person that's listening or watching will have gone through one of these things. And what would you say is the first step in making sure it's not suppressed and that it's safe? You go through it safely.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think with any change, there's a loss of some sort. And I think when we were chatting before, you know, we were thinking about, yeah, I guess the big ones are kind of death, divorce, disease, disaster. You know, all of those things, if you think about them, have a loss associated with them somewhere. And even when we change and we think it's exciting and good, we're often leaving something else behind, aren't we? And it's adapting to that. And I think in terms of probably the first step was what you were asking me, is acknowledging actually what's going on and normalizing it, actually. Realizing that we're human beings with human feelings, and yeah, change isn't easy, is it? Because our brains are wired for a nice, easy life.
That's one of the big things, isn't it, about change, is the loss. So I guess that for somebody who has a drive towards success, somebody who is an entrepreneur or a professional that wants to work up the career ladder and is driving towards that success, loves success, but doesn't like change, or the other way around, loves change but has a fear of success. And so the two of them are just constantly kind of rubbing up against one another, like one is holding the other one back constantly. And I see so much of that, certainly in our industry. People that really want the change, they crave the change, but they realize that to create that change, they do have to give something up. And sometimes that thing might be ego. Sometimes that thing might be stopping talking over people. What would you say are the top things that cause the most challenges for people that are navigating change?
Oh, that's quite a big question, isn't it? I think breaking it down into smaller pieces can be really helpful for people, because, you know, sometimes it feels really overwhelming particularly when there's more than one thing, which I guess is our life these days, isn't it? We're juggling so many things, and stuff's happening all around us, you know, even at a cellular level, we're changing, aren't we? So I think kind of acknowledging that sometimes it can be quite overwhelming, and just pausing and prioritizing and breaking it into smaller, more manageable chunks, I guess. And I think the other thing that's just surfacing in my mind as well is coming back to who am I, what's important to me, what are my values, because that can sometimes help you, I think, to prioritize, to realize what's important and what perhaps is less important about whatever might be happening. And then figuring out, like, how can I transition from where I am to where I want to be, or how can I navigate this, whatever it is that's happening.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
How we navigate it, absolutely. How we navigate it will be either towards our values or away from our values. I mean, when you think about how, I mean, I've done it. Everyone must have done it, where you've reacted. You haven't responded. You've reacted to something, and you've reacted in a way that is so out of character, either for you or for your values. You know, like your highest core value is quality relationships, and yet you've just taken someone's head off, you know, with your words, because you're going against your values. So I think that's such a good point, is whatever change you're facing, what are your values? What are the most important parts of you that again, it's connected to identity? Who am I? Who am I? If I'm you know, really at my very core wanting to be kind and generous and graceful, gracious, is that how I'm acting? Is that when I respond to this rather than react, that gives me a better way of understanding how I might navigate that conversation? That's really good.
Do you know what you just reminded me of there? It's going through my mind. You know, this whole sort of Viktor Frankl quote. Have you come across that? Yeah.
Yeah,
the fact that we always have.
Greg got that for me a couple of Christmases ago.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, the man's search for meaning and man's search for more meaning, something. Yeah, this idea of between a stimulus and a response is this space, and it's within that space, isn't it, that we have a choice, and that's where our growth is. Words to that effect, anyway.
Yeah,
it's just so good, isn't it?
So good. Kaz, I want to come to the part in your chapter, because you, by the way, guys and girls, if you haven't bought the book and read Kaz's chapter yet, make sure you go buy it. The link is on the screen there. If you go buy it from Amazon, then you will not get access to all of the workshops that we're going to be running over the next 12 months, where each of the authors are giving their time to take this further and not just tell you what to do in the book, but give you some how to through the webinars and masterclasses that we just don't have time to fit it all into the chapter or into these interviews. So we're going to be doing more webinars. There will be more training that follows this as part of being a part of the movement, I guess, of joining us by buying the book and being part of it. So make sure you go to the link on the screen, because that's how you're going to get access to all of the tools and materials and webinars that we're going to do over the next 12 months. So I'm going to come to a tiny piece of Kaz's chapter, because Kaz, you gave a brilliant, absolutely brilliant activity in your chapter, which is so revealing, so thought-provoking. It was just really, really good. And so I'm really looking forward to people going through that and seeing what comes out of that. What are the answers to those questions you put in there? But one of the things that you say in your chapter is you talk about how this is not a rehearsal. I wasn't happy, but I knew I had more to offer. So without taking us into that, because guys and girls, you're going to have to read the chapter to find out what that's in relation to. When you talk about it's not a rehearsal, I wasn't happy, but I knew I had more to offer. Do you think that on some level, most human beings are awake enough to recognize that there is so much more potential they could be going through, right? You know, I think like even the top entrepreneurs and the top ripple makers at the very, very top of the top, they still always know that there's an extra level to go. I mean, even the top coaches have top coaches that are coaching them. And I don't know, I just feel like there's such a need for what you do, and not enough people are connecting with you on that. You know, so many people are waiting for their company to rescue them. They're waiting for their company to bring in coaches. They're waiting for other people to pay for stuff. And they're not living the life that they could be just by investing in themselves. I just think there's such a need for what you do. Everybody needs you. But I mean, because you're not just, you tend to do a lot of work in a corporate sense, but you don't only work in a corporate sense, do you? You've done a lot of stuff to do with grief. Talk about some of that. Let's share with us, like, what is your background? What can you support people with?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the thing at the center of pretty much all my coaching work is around change and what we mentioned earlier around loss, but knowing how to navigate that. And everyone's going to be a bit different, so it's not a one size fits all by any means. But I think sometimes facing into things, taking that step, and fear comes into this quite a lot, doesn't it? Whether it's fear of the unknown or fear of becoming something you're not sure about, fear of what other people might think. Who am I to be X or Y, is often a question, I'm sure, that goes through a lot of people's minds. What will they say about me? Whole comparison, all of these themes come in as things that people bring to coaching. So yeah, I've done and I still do quite a lot of work in the sort of grief and loss space, but it's not just about bereavement. People might have moved country, they might have moved jobs, their family circumstances might have changed. There's so many different things that change, aren't there, in our lives? And sometimes talking to people who are close to us are not always the most helpful because they want to give us advice. So the good thing about having a coach is, they're going to be, or I'm going to be, non-judgmental, really listen, be in the best service for the person in front of me, and be quite challenging sometimes as well, to kind of, give people that sort of, not a physical shake, but, a bit of a nudge.
Yeah. A loving nudge.
That's the one.
A loving nudge in the right direction. Because I think it would be helpful actually for you also to share with those that are listening and watching what coaching is, because I think a lot of people get it wrong. They think a coach is going to come along and tell them what to do. So can you describe to our audience what actually is a good coach from your perspective in the way that you work?
Yeah, there's probably lots of different ways to describe it, but I think for me, there's something around it's enabling somebody else to live their life in the way that they've dreamed of, I guess. And that might be, I've always wanted to do X, or I've always wanted to be this or try the other, but I've been either afraid of it, or I've been unsure, or no one's ever really encouraged me. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not about giving people the answers. Sometimes, you might be working towards a solution together with somebody. So I just see it as a partnership, somebody walking sort of shoulder to shoulder, no judgment, no advice giving. I mean, occasionally I might take my coaching hat off if somebody, asks me to, but generally speaking, it's just this wonderful space that somebody can bring whatever's going on, however big, however small, and work it through together. Whether that's kind of doing little exercises, moving around. I use quite a lot of physical movement sometimes. Reflecting, because when do we get that space as well to just kind of reflect? So there's so many different approaches to coaching. That's why I love it so much. And I always kind of work with someone to say, how do you like to work? And do you want me to kind of, provoke you a little bit sometimes, or do you want me to support you? And yeah, you never quite know what you're going to get, but it's it's a change for sure, and a shift, definitely a shift.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing that I've loved about having coaches my whole career has been the ability for them to see something in me that I can't see because I'm too close to it. The ability for them to see things that not only are in me that I can't see, but also in my ideas that I can't see because I'm too close to them. the ability to bring out of me those things I didn't even realize were there, because they can see what's there. And I think that one of the most powerful things you do is literally creating a safe space where somebody can express, explode, explore, and expand to the next level, but in a safe, non-judgmental way, where they're free to experiment as such, and have somebody just lovingly, ask questions, not even to tell them what to do, but like the questions you've asked in your chapter are just such good questions. Like, you've called them coaching questions: coaching question 1, coaching question 2, coaching question 3. They're such good questions. And sometimes all it takes when you're feeling overwhelmed or overworked or overloaded or undervalued or unseen, unappreciated, all the uns and the overs, it can just take a question like that for you to be able to take that step back and reflect, and at the same time work out, well, is this me? Is this me? And is this who I want to be? I mean, let's talk about identity, because the name of your chapter is Who Are You Choosing to Be? What is it around identity that we feel so strongly about having to fit in, that we don't want anybody to question our identity, so we stay small and silent? So many people do that. I know I've certainly done that in my life. I've had to change myself to be around certain people, and it's just crazy. It's like, why do we do it? But we do. Even strong people do it. What would you say?
Yeah, and I think I was just thinking about what we talked about earlier, how we can, excuse me, suppress things, don't we? Excuse me. Yeah, we suppress things, don't we? We push things down, as you say, to sort of play small. And maybe it is that kind of fear of visibility, or what other people are going to think or say. How can we fully be ourselves? And I come back to, this is not a rehearsal. Go for it. What is it that's stopping you? What's getting in your way? And let's work on that, because there are so many obstacles for all of us, myself included, that quite often are just in here, aren't they? They're not real. They're perceived. They've not even happened yet. Sometimes we're fearing something that hasn't even happened.
I just remember, like, by the end of my first marriage, I've only been married twice, and I'm with my husband now. But the end of that first marriage, the amount of people that said to me, you used to be really strong and assertive and courageous and out there, and you just, how have you become the person that you've become? Like, how did that even happen? And I think even I wouldn't have tolerated the things that I did tolerate. But I think there's this kind of seeping in that can happen with people that are around you, that you can become someone completely different to the person that you were born to be. I suppose my question is, like, has that situation happened because that's actually who we're meant to be? It's to remove the ego, or to, bring you back to core self. Or is it that actually through coaching, that's the best way for us to work out who we really are?
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking then, I was thinking, how many times in our lives are we trying to please somebody else? And then that becomes a habit, doesn't it? It becomes normal for us. And then we forget who we are. We forget, what we enjoy. We're so busy looking after everybody else. Sometimes, for some people, that might be the case anyway. Yeah, we sort of get morphed into something, and it can be quite hard work, because it's probably not necessarily our natural way of being, is it? We're trying to be something else, which can take a lot of energy as well.
Well, if you think back, however many centuries, ago, we would have been in tribes, and you wouldn't have wanted to stand out in the tribe, because standing out or being rejected would have meant certain death outside the camp on your own. And I think, you know, we've carried some of that across in a significant way, but in a like very unconscious way, that when you actually become conscious of that as change makers, as catalysts, we're standing out. We're standing up for whatever it is we believe in. We're standing in the gap for those that might not be courageous or strong enough to be able to stand up for themselves yet. But somebody who's a catalyst is somebody who really stands up and says, you know what, through the process of learning everything I've learned, I am going to stand in this gap for you. And I'm going to stand here as long as it takes until you are ready to step into that yourself.
Yeah.
Kaz, you're going to be delivering a masterclass at the end of February, which I'm really looking forward to, where we're going to dive into these aspects of identity, of who you're choosing to be. Do you want to give a little insight into a kind of top level what we'll be doing, so that the guys and girls who are watching this can say, I need to be on that masterclass?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, there are so many topics around this that we can delve into, but the way I like to do these kinds of things is, you know, to really get people thinking about what's important to them, maybe experimenting and trying a few things on for size, going away and maybe practicing some, you know, just some little changes to see what happens. So yeah, I can't wait. There are so many ideas running around in my head at the moment, but it comes down to, yeah, we can choose to be whoever we like. And sometimes we just need somebody to encourage that. So that's what I'm hoping to do in certainly one of those webinars.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, guys and girls, you can see, for those of you that are watching this, you can see on the screen there right now. I'm going to put Kaz's details up there. So do reach out to Kaz if you've got any questions, or you love her chapter and you want to write and tell her how much you love it. There's her details there. And also I'll be tagging Kaz in, so you'll see that tag, you'll see her name. So click on that, follow the breadcrumbs, and go follow her on all her socials as well. And for those of you that haven't bought it yet, make sure you buy the book. Buy the book for someone else. Christmas is coming. It's a perfect gift to give someone that you love, someone that you know is ready to go to that next level, or is maybe questioning going to that next level. Maybe you know somebody who's hiding behind their dream. Maybe you know someone who talks about the thing they are going to do, and they've been talking about it for ages and they haven't done it yet. This is the perfect book for those that just need that little ignition, somebody to believe in them more than they believe in themselves right now. And they've got 21 people doing that in this book. So I'm really excited about that. Kaz, I can't wait to share with everybody what we're going to be doing. For those of you that do sign up to the book through that link that's on the screen right now, and I'll put it in the description for those of you that are listening, you'll be able to get access to all of these masterclasses. So make sure you do sign up, and then we'll send you an email that gives you the whole list, and then you'll be able to join all of the masterclasses you want to attend. Kaz, is there anything that you would like to end today with, an inspirational note that we can leave everybody with today?
Oh gosh, there's probably so many. I would probably say, you know, don't play small. Don't wait. You know, none of us know what's around the corner. So step in the direction you want to go, and step in it now. Don't wait.
Love that. Perfect message to leave it on. Kaz, thank you. I love you. Thank you for playing as part of the Catalyst of Change project and collaboration. For those of you that are tuning into our next interview, we will be live in the next couple of minutes. So we'll look forward to introducing our next change maker to you. In the meantime, while you wait for the next interview to come up, please do take a selfie with Kaz and I on the screen. Make sure you share it. Make sure you tag me in as well. You'll find me across all the socials. I'm Sammy Garrity Official. So tag me in at Sammy Garrity Official. If you can, tag in the speakers that you're watching on the screen as well. And remember, you can click the share button beneath all of these interviews to share them to your own profile. Let's make sure that everybody we know gets access to the resources, the mentors, and the training that they need to move their life forward in every way. So thank you, my darlings. Thank you, Kaz. And guys and girls, I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bye for now.